everybody. Bootsy Greenwood here, and I am coming to you live from my whiteboard, and I want to talk to you today a little bit about why transurfing is poop. Yeah, I know, it sounds gross and icky, but I have to shout out to my good friend Gina Locke, who's a human design expert. She's amazing. And we were talking the other day, and this came up somehow. Maybe she won't want to take credit for this because she, I think, pulled it out of the ether. But it's an acronym, so don't trip too hard just yet. But I do think you will enjoy and maybe get a lot out of this. I have recently read this book again. I read it every year. It kind of took me a while this past year, but as I was reading it, I was like, man, this book is so good. I really want to share it in a condensed form. So if you're interested in getting access to these principles in the most concise way that you possibly can, I suggest going to my website, and you can get the summary that I've created there on my website. There's also a bunch of free audiobooks. There's a bunch of just different free guides. There's the Core Method by Jim Shane, which somebody just messaged me today and said, hey, I really appreciate this. Big shout out to Jim Shane. That's a really helpful method to let go of stress and things that are bothering you. You can download that. It's absolutely free. I strongly recommend checking out his book, The Core Method. It has an even more in-depth analysis and a lot of other cool stuff in there. But but before you do all that, hang around here and let's talk about why transurfing is poop. And there's probably a lot of reasons why you could fill in this blank. But again, this is an A. It's an acronym. And when we're practicing things, it takes a long time to learn, to master something. You know, they say it takes like 10 years to master something. For me and this book, we've been together for about 8 years, and I've internalized a lot of the principles in it. And honestly, they're not new. There's nothing new about them. There's a lot of hullabaloo about this book. And that's because the author just explains things so well. But he even says in the book that these ideas, they don't belong to anybody. They're ancient. These ideas are how the pyramids were made, he says. These ideas are, you know, just old ideas that have been in the public's awareness for a long time, but we've forgotten these principles. We've forgotten exactly how that these principles are to be used. So the first part of this, when we're trying something out, is we want to pilot it. We want to give it a shot. We want to see how it goes. Sometimes we try something and we fall on our face. It's a failure. But you have to be okay with that, okay? Because failure is not an option. It's a necessity. No matter what it is that we're trying to do, we're going to, unfortunately, every once in a while, struggle and fail. It's just part of it. That's what we do. We go out there, we try something, and we fail. The next thing that happens is we encounter that obstacle, okay, when we try that thing out. That's that failure. Or at least it is perceived by us to be a failure. We're like, this didn't go the way I wanted it to, and I really wanted it to go well. But it's like, look, man, you're not going to nail this on your first go round. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some development. It's going to take some focus. And you're going to have challenges. There are going to be obstacles. In the book, Reality Transurfing, he talks about pendulums. Pendulums, which are energetic informational structures that are basically knocking us off our balance, knocking us off course, and frustrating us. And what often happens is when we hit this first obstacle, we just give up. We're like, oh, I piloted it. I tried it out. I hit an obstacle. I guess it's just time to pack it in. Time to go. But again, failure, it's a necessity. We have to fail in order to learn, and that's how we grow until the next thing is an opportunity. So if we can learn to roll with the punches a little bit and not completely express distaste when something doesn't go the way we think it should have, then that opens us up, right? The metaphor that Vadim uses in Reality Transurfing is you think about a fly that's bouncing up against a window pane, trying to get out the window. But it's so close to the window, it can't see that the window next to it is wide open. If it would just back up a little bit, it could fly out the open window and everything would be fine. It would be out of the house and out of the way, and it would go where it wanted to go. So that's what we need to remember to do. We need to remember to have some perspective. Whenever we do have an obstacle, whenever we do have a failure, we just need to relax, back the truck up, take a deep breath, and say, okay, cool, what does this mean? How can I leverage this and find the opportunity here? Because if you begin to find that opportunity, that's when you can pivot. So you find the opportunity, and then you simply pivot to the next thing. Now the next thing, it might be a failure too, but guess what? Wash, rinse, repeat. Okay, go back here. You're gonna try this again. You're probably going to incur some other new challenge. I can't tell you how frustrated I've been trying to create things and put things out there, no matter what it is. And time and time and time and failure and failure and failure, you create something, and then all of a sudden, if it's an audiobook, let's say, there's some audiobook interference and you have to re-record some of the chapters, or who knows, all kinds of crazy things can happen with these projects that we undertake. We're going to find always new challenges. And what we really need to keep in mind is when we encounter the obstacle, it's important to just stay calm and not freak out, because that obstacle will lead us directly to the opportunity to try next. And again, when that opportunity and that pivot happens, sometimes there's going to be another obstacle. But as they say in a lot of self-help, the obstacle is the way. You just keep continuing forward. You just keep moving forward and going on and on forward until the next thing, until the next thing, until the next thing. It doesn't really matter anyway, because once we have decided on our goal, it's not really about accomplishing it in any way. The accomplishment of the goal is kind of empty, if I'm honest. Like, what's more fun is pursuing the goal, pursuing and attaining. Attaining a goal is great, but a lot of times you get to the end, you're like, okay, now what? And now you maybe want to find a new goal. You want to do something different. And that's part of the process as well. But just finding the goal and moving towards it, there's fulfillment in that. And that's why people talk so much about the process. And this is the process right here. The process is poop, okay? That's just what it is. So learn to embrace it, learn to enjoy it, and understand that the reward is within you. The reward is the emotions that you get by pursuing the goal, by doing the thing, right? So if we can begin to move forward and we're not knocked off balance at the first sign of failure, then all of a sudden we're going to be having fun, we're going to be enjoying the process, we're going to be building something completely different, unique, and new. So I hope this is helpful. Remember, it's just poop. Calm down. Everything's fine. Check out my website. Check out the podcast, Blue Collar Mystics. I got a lot of cool stuff coming up. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging in. Happy New Year. We'll see you next one.